Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Behind the Scenes with Your Teen. This is our weekly chat with our editorial team where we talk about some issue that we're going to kick around, and it's really only fun if you join in. So if you see that option to comment, we'd love to hear from you because we don't really have all the answers. Today, what we're talking about is, oh, and by the way, I want to say Ekka's going to join us in progress. She's doing that thing where you've been on hold for a half hour and you're waiting for them to come and talk to you, and the customer service person finally picks up just as you have something else to do. Ever had that happen? Like every time, right? So she'll pop in when she can. And so today we're talking about when you have rules and your teenager feels like those rules don't apply to me. Why would I do that thing? And now I'm too big and you can't make me. It was a little different when they were toddlers, and like the rule was you have to sit in the car seat, and you might have physically been able to pick them up and put them in the car seat and snap it closed. Totally hypothetical, not that I ever had to do that, and not that I ever used any bad language in the process of doing it. A little different when they're teens and they're like fully developed on the outside but not on the inside, and that is such a struggle. So we want to talk today about like where do we draw that line? We know we have to pick our battles. You can't just enforce everything that you think they should do. And I'm going to steal a little bit of Mindy's thunder. Mindy, if you're going to talk about this, too bad. We already know that Mindy is the sleepover ogre. She did not allow sleepovers. Period. End of question. That was just like a hard and fast rule in her house. Yeah. I was a marshmallow on that one. So I'm going to give two examples. One is a lighter one and one's a more serious one. So my light one was both of my girls at some point wanted name brand Uggs. They wanted the real thing. And I was like, no, I don't. Your foot is still growing. You're going to wear this 6 times and outgrow it. I know, and I feel for you. I wanted the Jordache jeans. I really did. But I got JCPenney, and I'm here. I survived it. And maybe if you want to use some of your money to pay for it, and it was never that important. Like when I put that out there, like you could use your money to buy it. I was like, it's all right. I'll wear the Fogs. It's fine. So you kind of can test the waters a little bit if it's something like that, where you can say, I don't mind you wearing them. I just don't want to pay for it. You'll find out quickly if they really care. The more serious thing that I really had to draw a hard line on was I wouldn't let my kids drive other people's kids until they had fulfilled their graduated licensing requirement. And that might sound like a no-brainer, but let me tell you, if you haven't gotten to that point yet, it's hard. It's in Ohio, it's a whole year after they get their license before they're allowed to drive anybody else's kid. I think maybe one driver they can take, but I've already forgotten because I put it behind me. But it was really hard because there's so many times when your life would be much easier if you could just say, yeah, it's fine. You can drive so-and-so home from the mall. But no, I would like put on my snow boots and my coat, go scrape my car and go pick them up or whatever I had to do so that they didn't have that, be in that position. So that was a tough one for me, but I did feel strongly, like I know the research, I know it's so much safer if you don't drive other people's kids until you've had a year of driving under your belt. But I know plenty of parents who didn't feel that they could hold fast on that. So those were two from me. I am going to send it over to Mindy since I already stole hers. Sorry, Mindy.
Oh, so you didn't allow me time to think of another hard and fast rule, Jen. But yes, in fact, I was a sleepover ogre. So was my husband. A hard and fast rule, and we stuck with it. And as I've said on this broadcast before, my kids are fine. They turned out okay. The other hard and fast rule I would say that we had was curfew. That was another big one in our house. I guess by now we all know my sleep is very important, and I was a mom that could not fall asleep at all until all my kids were home. So we were hard and fast on curfew. We did, if there was an issue, thank God for cell phones, text us, let us know where you are, why you might be late. And then we could take it from there. Other rules, I can't remember a ton, but I do remember one not so hard and fast on was my youngest, when the older two were in college. He was an athlete, and I would make him, he loved chicken salad for lunch. So at like Sunday, I would cook up a ton of breaded chicken breast with a special mom recipe. And, I would, chop it up and mayo and a good roll and make him a healthy lunch every day, so that he would have all the energy he needed for his sport. Come to find out, he actually was selling half of that sandwich to a friend every single day, and making cash. And at first, that's wrong. I was seeing none of the cash. I should have known when he was younger and he would take stuff out of the garage and sell them to kids. But that was something that struck me. I remember thinking, what? And then, is there something wrong with that? Is there not something wrong with that? It didn't sit right, but I remember saying to him, okay, well, listen, I'll make the kid a whole sandwich and let's charge him double and we'll split it. And my whole point was that with that is there were things for sure we're hard and fast on. And then there are other times when I think our kids bring us things and then we adjust. So that's my example of, okay, I get it. Doesn't seem quite kosher to me, but okay. So with that, I will pass it over to Eka.
Good morning. Oh, Mindy, I love your stories. I really do. They're always so good. One of the things that in retrospect, maybe it wasn't the right thing to do that we did was a hard, fast rule was we sat down with both of our girls when they turned 16 and were starting to drive was we had the alcohol talk. And maybe we shouldn't, and so what we did is we sat down and we said, we know you're not going to drink. Haha. But here's the thing. We're going to lay out the consequences right now of what happens when we find you drinking. And it has nothing to do with drinking and driving. It just has to do with drinking. But now you have a car and now it's scarier. So we came up with our expectations. We came up with the expectations. We came up with the consequences. And the hard no was, if we find you've had one drop of alcohol and you were driving the car is gone. We got them cars at 16 and we will sell the car and you will not have a car. It is not up for discussion. And that was a hard no for us. Other things, I know people argued with their daughters about clothes. I wasn't going there. I wasn't going to go with the clothes. I had bigger things to deal with than clothes. And I do remember when my oldest daughter went to college, probably in her first month, she got a tattoo, which did not surprise us at all. And I remember saying it at a book club that my daughter had gotten a tattoo. And a friend of mine who had a daughter who was significantly younger said, well, if my daughter got a tattoo, I wouldn't pay for her to go to college. And I was like, you say that, but there's so many things don't matter when there's so many bigger things in the picture. So I think I would have said the same thing. But after that, I was like, whatever, man. I just said, don't put it on your face, So I'm going to send it over to Sharon.
Thank you, Eka. I'm trying to think about whether we have hard and fast rules. Like, you absolutely better not ever do this. And I'm having trouble thinking of them for my two teenagers and my younger kid, partly because I am so aware of how little I can make them do. It's kind of like Jen was saying, that we used to strap them down in the car seat, even if they didn't want to. But I think of the teenage thing as being more like potty training. Like, you may want that kid to sit on the toilet and not pee all over the floor, but when it comes down to it, we can't control it. That's within their control, not ours. And I feel like a lot of things are like that. I can't remember what it was the other day. My kid said, well, how would you stop me from doing X? And I said, well, I can't. There might be a consequence. And I don't know if anybody else has ever had this, when your kid's about to do something that you don't want them to do, and you say, if you don't do X, or if you do X, there's going to be a consequence. And have you ever had a kid who said, well, what is the consequence? What's it going to be? They want to weigh whether it's worth it to break the rule. And I think, Eka, your consequence is both understandable and so severe that probably your kids never broke that rule, because that is like a huge thing. But I haven't put that kind of serious consequence in place. So I guess I'm still figuring all this out. Like, the consequence, I don't want it to be too big either, because if I take away their phone forever, then they have nothing else to lose. And then, like, why would they even bother? So it's like the consequence has to be, sized right, so that, like, they see getting it back, and that they have the hope of, doing better again. I don't know. So that is those are my random thoughts on consequences and making kids do stuff. And Kamira, I will pass it to you.
Good morning. I'm here with you with the consequences. And I was thinking as you were talking, when they get older, you can't really have those tangible consequences. So in our house, the consequence is, and it's unspoken, but they know that if I am disappointed or hurt, that's much worse than losing your phone or something. Because even when we're tussling and we're arguing, I'll tell them, I don't really like you right now, but I love you. I'm always going to love you. So if I'm really disappointed or hurt and I have nothing left to say to you, then they know that they've done something wrong, and they try to avoid that. Right now, we're having an issue with we have a son who turned 18 this month. And in Georgia, we have Joshua's Law for drivers. And, you have I call it a junior driver's license. It's a teen driver's license. And it's, it has graduated responsibility. And once you have that license, you either go through the process for a year and then you're eligible to switch to a regular driver's license, or you turn 18 during that process, you can switch. So he got his license late. So he's still in the 1 year threshold for Joshua's Law, but he turned 18. So he's told me that, he can change his license if he wants. And I've explained to him that I don't want him to, that I want him to go through the process. And he knows, he's had friends who are early drivers who've had accidents. He knows how I feel about this. He knows we've had somebody ask if he could drive a younger child to school. And I've explained that he's still under Joshua's Law and he can't. And there's a neighbor who's younger than he is, who's driving younger kids to school, to the same school, lives right next to us. And he can't. But he has to know, they have to know that sometimes I feel really strongly about something. And when I do, it's usually about safety or belief system. It's not trivial. And I saw him, inhale, and he hasn't changed his license and he's not going to, but he's going to bring it up for the next 6 months. And I'm just going to have to hear it. And I'm trying to be calm and realize that that's part of his process, right? As you said, his brain isn't fully developed, no matter what he thinks and no matter how tall he is. And I'm just going to have to allow him that and not back down, because I really believe that they need this training period when they're driving, and that they don't need all the distractions, and and the law provides for that. And he got his license late, so he's just not doing what other 18-year-olds are doing. I am going to let's send it to Jessica.
All right, I don't have, so first, just real quick, I just want to let Mindy know that I have a story very similar to her son's, but sort of the opposite. I had a friend in high school who every day would get like these wonderful, beautiful hand-packed lunches from his mother, who just, wanted to make sure that he had like, good, healthy food, and didn't really trust the school lunches, wanted to give him like ethnic Chinese food. And I hated the school lunches that my parents would give me money to buy. So every day I'd buy the school lunch and then trade it. And I got a little bit in trouble for that. But after a bit, my parents were like, yeah, whatever, I guess buy him mac and cheese, have fun. And I also, my dad, so I have a problem where I am both forgetful and clumsy and not very good at paying attention to things around me. And I have a tendency to, drop things and break things and knock things over and leave things out where I will trip over them and break something else, which my dad was very not happy with for many years of my life. And he told me later, like, he kind of eased up on that for my brother, who also, tendency to leave things out and break things. He said, like, at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff you're breaking is kind of your own. Like you drop a water bottle and dent it, and that's not my problem anymore. He said he got it from his friend Randy, and he's like, I need to get a bracelet. Like what would Randy do? Just like like gotta figure out like what things are worth getting worked up over, what things are worth yelling, especially again when it's like me breaking my own things. Like sure, when I was a teenager, he paid for a lot of them, but at the end of the day, like it's still it's my thing, it's my responsibility. He doesn't need to replace it. So I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting, and a nice perspective. And I just got a text to remind everyone that in a couple of weeks we have the middle school tech webinar coming up, which I have a link to that I can put in the. Oh wait, did somebody beat me to it? Never mind. But yeah, October 26th on Zoom. We have a middle school tech webinar all about middle schoolers using social media and technology. And I guess I'm going to pass it to Sue now.
So the hard thing about going last is everybody has said everything you wrote down to say. But I think my house was more reactive than proactive. And in a little bit of the Sharon Kamira style of parenting, we just didn't articulate so many hard and fast rules in our house. There was a lot of arguing about my disappointment. Like even if I said nothing and they felt my disappointment, it was a fight. And I'm like, but I didn't say anything. And they'd say, yeah, but you did. I'm like, no, but no words came out of my mouth. So there was an understanding of what was expected in our house. And I didn't grow up in a house with curfew or any real strict rules. And so I didn't do it, and Dan didn't do it. But as it turns out, our trusting nature was not really well earned. And our kids are older. And now we get to hear all of the ways that our trust was not well earned. And so what I would say is I don't really have regrets. Like they're all healthy and they've turned into great humans. But they understood that we were not quite on top of a lot of the things that we thought we were on top of. And so, the one thing I will say is we talked a lot about when you drink, not if you drink, but when you drink, you do not get into a car and you do not drive with someone else who has been drinking, and you do not drive. And I heard my kids tell friends, my parents will pick us up. So I felt like we put in place a safety measure. It really, in our house, didn't happen until senior year of high school, which it didn't happen at all, but it looked around me like it was going to happen anyway. And so making sure my kids were safe was more important than, not more important, but it seemed like a strategy that we wanted to put in place, that they understood that there was an alternative and no one would ask questions. And so I remember hearing more than one of them tell a friend, my parents have said they will pick us up if they need to, so don't worry. And I felt good about that. I'm sure there'll be a lot of criticism from people saying that you shouldn't assume that your kid is going to be drinking, but based on the stats around high school drinking, I think it wasn't unreasonable to have that expectation. So, it's really different parenting styles. And one of the things we learn over and over again is there is in the textbook, there's not one way to do it. And I don't think I'd do it any differently in my house, even knowing what I wish I didn't know now. But I don't even know like how I would have unveiled some of the things that went on that we didn't know about. Like they were good at doing it around us. So yay them. I don't know. All right, everybody. Tamara, Kamira, tell us about tomorrow. Tomorrow, not come.
Tongue twister. Tomorrow we have Shelly Canal. She's going to talk to us about teaching teens with IEPs, individual education plans, self-advocacy. Because at some point, if you have a child with an IEP, at some point they become a teen and they have to learn to self-advocate. They have to learn to navigate their world, especially if they're college bound, and it's going to continue on. So she's going to talk to us about that and show us what we need to do to guide our teens.
That's 10:30 tomorrow morning on our Facebook channel. So join Kamira there. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.